Recently, I got a custom order and one thing I had to figure out was how to make this Scandinavian woven basket. So I thought I'm going to share with you how to make one of your own. Also, I'm going to show you how to turn it into a beautiful Christmas ornament with a bit of extra style as well. Heart shape goes with almost any occasion, and just by changing the color, you can change its purpose. Both of these can be used as ornaments and also will serve as a great way to give away smaller gifts or gift cards. Hoping this project will light up your holidays. Now let's start with making the pattern first. On a piece of paper, draw or print a simple rectangular shape. Mine's going to be 2.5 by 2 inches in size. Now don't worry, I'll also share a PDF pattern as well. So you can just download and print that out. But I wanted to show you how to make the pattern so you can change the size and shape as you like. There's a bit of thinking and a lot of trial and error when it comes to making a pattern, even for a small scale one like this. I recommend you try making your own once in a while to get that experience as well. Once you draw the rectangle, draw a semicircle connected to one of the shorter sides of the rectangle, and this will be your base pattern. Now from the remaining shorter side of the rectangle, mark 2 inches away towards the curvy end of the pattern. The reason for that 2 inches measurement is not random. It'll always be the measurement of the shorter side of the rectangle. Then draw a dashed line parallel to the other lines on that side. For your understanding, if you place this same pattern aligned at the bottom and perpendicular to each other, you will get your heart shape. Now let's move on to the rest of the pattern. Divide the pattern into 2 equal halves and draw a line extending from the dashed line to the bottom straight line. Next, divide those halves into 2 again. You will end up creating 4 equal parts at the lower area of the pattern. Make sure lines for those equal parts only extend from the bottom to the dashed line. You can just eyeball it or measure precisely when drawing these lines for dividing. This will be the complete pattern for the Scandinavian heart basket, and then cut around the outline shape first without considering any of the lines in the middle. This pattern making part may be boring for some. In that case, you can skip this part and jump right into the project. At this point, our pattern is ready, and now let's see what are the materials and tools we need to complete this project. For the basic heart basket, you will need felt fabric in your color of choice, and I recommend you to choose 2 different colors. Otherwise, the beauty of the woven effect won't be much visible to the outside. Then you'll need a small piece of ribbon to hang the basket, and mine is 8 inches in length. Now if you're thinking of going one step further and making this into a hoop ornament, you will also need an embroidery hoop, and mine is 4 inches in size. Next, cut a piece of fabric for the hoop. Festive fabric will be ideal. Then you'll need a twine for hanging, some beads for decorating, and basic supplies like pins, a hand needle, embroidery threads, and a pair of scissors. With all the materials ready, let's start with cutting the felt pieces for the project. If you are using a pattern the way I created, first you must keep your fabric folded into 2 layers like this. Then place the bottom end of the pattern aligning with that folded end, and that's not something you can skip. It's a must, otherwise you won't get the required shape. Then start to pin the pattern to both layers. When you're pinning the area with the vertical lines, Make sure to pin in between the spaces without interfering with the drawn lines. After that, you can cut around the outline shape first. Next, make cuts along the 3 straight lines in the middle while cutting over the pattern as well. As you can understand, your cuts only extend up to the dash line. Since I'm cutting through the paper, I didn't use my fabric cutting scissors for this project. I recommend you do the same. Now let me remove the pins and unfold to show you how it looks. You may find this unfolded shape as a pattern for a Scandinavian heart basket somewhere else, and it will work too. I don't want you to get confused. It's just a symmetrical duplication of the same pattern. The only difference is you need to fold the fabric like I do when you are using the pattern I created. Now for the 2 sides of the heart, we need to cut another one from the pattern by following the same steps. I'm choosing a green color felt for that, and remember to fold the fabric and align the bottom end of the pattern with the folded end of the fabric. It'll be a little different when pinning this time since we already cut through those vertical lines. So make sure to pin according to that to keep things steady and still while cutting. I used 4 pins for each and every stripe. Following the same steps, first cut around the basic shape and then along those vertical lines. Finally, remove all pins, and with these 2 pieces ready, we can now start weaving the basket. Before doing that, you need to fold both felt pieces separately and pin the 2 layers together at the curvy end. Keep the 2 pieces angled like this so it will end up as a heart shape later in the project. For easy understanding, let me explain the weaving part like this. I'm going to weave the green one into the red one, so you keep the red one still and only work with the green one. Take the first loop closest to the green one and go through or over the first loop of the red one. It doesn't matter at the first time. I'm going to go over the loop, and when moving to the next one, you need to interchange it. Since I went over previously, I'm going to go through the second loop. For the third, it's over the loop again. For the fourth, it's going to be through the loop. At this point, we are done 1 out of 4, and now move it a little further to make some space. Now let's move on to the next one, and for that, check how you started with the first one. I went over, and because of that, this time I need to start with going through the first loop. As you can understand, the next one will be over the loop. Then for the third, it'll be through the loop. And finally, go over the loop for the fourth one. Keep following the same steps for the remaining 2 as well, and once done, move the loop towards the curvy end to make space for the next one. After completing all 4 loops, you can pull and adjust things to maintain a proper heart shape. Since these are woven to each other, things won't fall apart easily. Finally, remove the 2 pins at the curvy areas, and as you can see, now we got ourselves a Scandinavian woven heart basket. It's ideal to keep a small gift for any special occasion. Now we are going to need something to hold onto the basket, and I'm using a piece of ribbon for that. To reduce the fraying of the ribbon, you can first fold a small part at both ends before sewing, or if you have a pinking shears, use that to cut the ribbon, so you don't have to deal with much fraying later. Connect the 2 ends of the ribbon at the top middle part of the hearts on both sides. You can just glue it or hand sew it to the basket. As for myself, I'm going to hand sew mine to the basket using a matching embroidery thread color. You can use a few straight stitches to just attach the ribbon to the basket. Make sure it's strong enough to hold something small. After that, make a couple of knots at the inside layer of the basket to secure the stitches. Hide the thread in between the ribbon and the felt layer, and you can then trim the rest. Follow the same steps for the other end of the ribbon to make it into a holding basket. Now this is how it looks at the end, and you can even have enough space to place things like a small jewelry box or few candies. There is not much sewing involved in this craft project, so anybody can easily make a few of these for fun. With that done, now you know how to make a Scandinavian woven basket, and now let's move on to creating our next ornament. First, set your piece of fabric to the hoop, and for that, place the fabric on top of the smaller embroidery hoop. Then loosen the screw of the larger embroidery hoop and push that, covering the small hoop and the fabric. After that, you can tighten the screw while pulling the fabric on all sides to make it into a properly stretched fabric layer. I have already made another woven basket to match with the size of this embroidery hoop, and next I'm going to sew it to the fabric. First, place it at the center of the hoop, and we are only going to sew the back layer of the woven basket. That will allow us to use the small pocket-like area to place a small knot or even a gift card if you are using a bigger hoop with a bigger heart-shaped basket. If you can hold the basket still while sewing, you can do that, or you can also use a pin to keep it in place. Now thread your needle with the matching embroidery thread color and make a knot at the end. Coming from the back of the fabric, use the simple back stitch or running stitch to sew along the top part of the back layer. I'll leave the links for those tutorials in the description. You can keep the front layer folded to make things easier while sewing. After attaching the heart basket, now it's time to do some decorating if you're up for it. I'm thinking of using a few beads in white and red to make it specially for the holiday times. You can use as many or less beads you prefer, and I placed 6 from each color interchangeably. As you now have a rough idea on how things are going to arrange, start to attach one bead at a time. Also, try to use matching embroidery thread colors to blend in with white and red colors. The ones I'm using are glass beads, and I usually move the needle through 2 times to keep those steady and still. And I think that's strong enough. Personally, I don't like when I can see the hole of the beads on top, so I try to place it sideways when attaching. Even though I'm using beads, you can use something else to decorate, like doing small embroidery work on the background, attaching colorful buttons instead of beads, and more. Now this is how it looks with all the decorative beads, and you can then make a couple of knots at the back of the fabric to secure everything. Finally, trim the thread. As you can understand, we can't leave the fabric hanging around like this, so we need to give it a finishing look. For that, first trim off extra fabric around the hoop, leaving about an inch of space all around the hoop. I'm not going to show you how to do these steps in detail since we have a separate tutorial on how to do the back of an embroidery hoop. Please check that out for more detailed instructions. I'll leave the link in the description. Basically, you turn over to the wrong side of the hoop and starting at one point, use the running stitch to go all the way around the remaining part of the fabric. Draw the two ends of the thread and make a couple of strong knots to keep the fabric shrunk and intact to get into a more of a finishing look. Turn over to the right side and you have a beautiful holiday ornament now. If you are planning on hanging the ornament, cut a piece of twine and create a small loop with a bow tie to go with the vibe of the ornament. I chose a smaller embroidery hoop so I can even hang this on the Christmas tree as well. I'll attach the PDF pattern of the simple Scandinavian basket and for the hoop ornament since these are in 2 different sizes. You can make bigger or smaller baskets according to your requirements. With the twine attached at the top, we are at the end of our project and I hope you'll give it a try. Please let me know what you think of these 2 slightly different projects and don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you all for watching and I'll join you in the next one.